Welcome to Boys episode 194. I'm Robbie Ray.
And I'm Josh.
Montgomery, we are here to bring you a very, very special episode this week. We sat down with Josh Hogan of the Mowglis. Guitar player, nice guy.
Great. He's a sweetheart. He's a real sweetheart.
We had a really good conversation about, his background living in sunny LA and a lot of other things, but I want to start out the show with something kind of on a serious note. I know these are kind of trying times right now with COVID and social distancing, people out of jobs. But I kind of have an announcement to make regarding all of that stuff. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of locking in with me for a second. It's been a long time in the making, but today, before we get to the meat of the episode, I just want to try to think of how to put this. I want to announce something.
Yeah.
As of this morning, I got my very first win online on Street Fighter V.
You know, there's a silver lining in all this mess. It's that you won Street Fighter V.
I know, man. It's a lot to take in. Let it sink in. Let's just take a minute, slow down, take a breath.
Is COVID over now?
I think I beat COVID.
I think you beat COVID with a 5-point combo. Is that what it was?
I did a 9-hit combo to finish off. So I've been playing Street Fighter V online. If you want to hit me up on the PlayStation Network, my handle, my gamer ID, PSN ID is what they call it, is at hand amputation. All one word, all lowercase.
You've been playing a lot of like kids or like grown adults?
You don't like chat with them.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. It could be an 8-year-old. It could be a 50-year-old. It could be a 39-year-old loser. I don't know.
I've seen videos and I've played like with the live, and you have the headphones on. It's usually like war games, and it's some kid going, "You fuck you, bitch." I couldn't imagine playing a fighting game with like a pubescent boy who's just like, "Yeah, fuck you. Yeah, fuck, take that shit." You know what I mean?
Totally. Last week we talked about games and stuff, and I've been getting into the Street Fighter V in my spare time, and I bought an arcade stick, like a legit badass. Dude. In fact, look.
It's
I got
huge.
the box right here, just for you, Josh. Yeah, it's
okay.
Massive. I can't even get it in the screen. I'm just gonna go like this.
Like a boom box. Okay, what do you think the dimensions of that joystick are?
It's probably 2 feet wide by a foot deep.
So it looks like if you were to attach it to a cabinet, it would look like an arcade.
You could if you made like a tabletop, like MAME system or RetroPie or something, you could drop this right in and have a supreme quality, Japanese components, stainless steel beveled top.
No lag.
No lag, dude. No lag. Lag. It's amazing. But yeah, dude. I have a buddy. He's actually a friend of Dylan's, who I'm kind of buddies with too, and he kind of gave me some. He plays Street Fighter, or did play it competitively. Now he's moved on to the new Mortal Kombat, but I got some tips from him. I was like, hey man, I really want an arcade stick. What should I get? What should I stay away from? I don't want the most expensive, but I also don't want like the cheapest. I want something decent, And we figured all that out, and then I've been asking him for tips on Street Fighter, and the main tip he gave me was, when you start to play online, you're going to lose a lot.
Yeah.
For a long time.
People's good.
Yeah, dude. And they have a ranking system like most online games, so you're kind of like matched up with people around your level or your experience or whatever. But I was still just getting my ass handed to me every single time. I'm trying not to be angry gamer, throw the controller, because if I threw this fighting stick, I'd probably kill someone.
Yeah.
But it's got a weight to it. But I finally this morning, I've won a round here or two, but I've never won a match. The 2 out of 3.
Right.
And I won not once, but twice this morning. So,
hey,
if you think about the matches that I've done, I've probably played about 50 matches. I've won 2, baby.
Congrats.
1, 2.
That's not bad. They say, what's the old thing? 2 out of 50 ain't bad.
That's right. What is that, like 2% win rate? Yeah.
Hey, you keep working, man.
I'm ready for
5 out of 50.
Dude, maybe one day I might win 2 in a row. We'll see. But yeah, we got an excellent show for you today. But before we get into that, first, a little advertisement. boyspodcast.com. It's a hub of all things boys. There you will find links to our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, as well as that golden donate button. Listen, I'm trying to get to the Street Fighter tournament in LA. I need money. Fund me, baby. I'm going to be taking a little off the top of whatever we get to pad that wallet for my trip.
You should film it and then make a remake of that movie, The Wizard.
Yeah, shot by shot.
Shot by shot remake, but for Street Fighter.
What does he keep saying? California.
Yeah.
That dinosaur scene wasn't. Hold on. Was there?
It was the same. There was one in Pee-wee as well.
That's
almost
right.
The exact same scene.
Yes. Do you remember the scene in The Wizard where what's her name? Who's the girl? Jenny Lewis, right?
Jenny Lewis, yeah.
Where she's like, he touched my breast.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That always gave me a little tingle as a young man for some reason. I don't know. Still does.
Talking titties.
Proceed.
Voice is available on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube. Leave a review on iTunes. Subscribe everywhere you can subscribe. It lets you know what we're going to be doing for you in the future.
Email us, boys@boyspodcast.com. Send us some feedback. Throw your physical address in the bottom. We'll send you out some free stickers. Listen, we got time, and we got stickers. And I just bought a new roll of stamps. Let me tell you something. Stamps are expensive.
Did you go to the post office to buy these stamps?
I did, yeah. I did. I ventured out because I sold something on Reverb, and I had to ship it. So, yeah, I ventured out to the post office. Yesterday, I went to the outlet mall.
Oh.
It's opened up. You know, I masked up. I put my gloves on and
you sent me a little picture of a purchase.
I did, yeah. There comes a time in a young man's life where you got to buy a new pair of shoes, and that's exactly what I did yesterday. Throwing it back to the late 90s, early 2000s, bought me a pair of Adidas shell toes.
Dude, classic white.
All white, well, white with the black stripes, but yeah, most of it's white. Got a little gold here and there, man. As soon as I slipped my foot in there, I was just like,
take it back.
These babies are going home with me. Totally took me back. I was stoked, man.
That's awesome.
I'm bringing back new metal. No, I didn't.
Did not get a deal.
No, I got bent over right in Journeys, but no, I brought them home, and yeah, it was fun. We did brave the elements, though, and we're taking steps, being cautious, but we had to get out of the house, man.
So I had a question. We'll get back to the words. The words.
Yes.
The sponsored words.
The words.
When you went to the post office, did you utilize the drop box?
I didn't because I had to buy some stamps, so I just went in. But I did go really early, and there was no one else in there, so I felt pretty safe. It had the hand sanitizer.
Our town's post office it's so tiny, and
it is.
They don't have a digital kiosk where you can buy stamps there. You gotta go in and talk to Phil. Phil's been working there for 50 years.
Oh yeah, Phil looks like Stan Lee. Just imagine that, if you will. But yeah, I would like to say that our post office is quaint.
Yeah, vintage, historic.
A vintage
it's
post
old.
office.
It's a vintage post office. My favorite. Well, thanks to our sponsors, anthembrewing.com. Located at 908 Southwest 4th Street, right here in the heart of Oklahoma City. Open Monday through Friday, 3 to 7 p.m. Weekends, 12 to 5. Get you a sixer of beer. Get you a growler. Have some fun. Dude, Memorial Day weekend, we're in the middle of it. What better weekend to drink? I mean, you're going to be past it once you hear this episode, but make every weekend Memorial Day weekend. Remember to drink an Anthem.
That's right.
Anthem.com. We're also sponsored by Fat Bison. FatBison.com, maker of fine wooden signs and furniture for you and your family and your loved ones. Again, Memorial Day. Are you a veteran? Have a nice wooden, I'm talking thick, like maybe
with
about
2 Cs.
6 inches deep, with your rank and your name and maybe a war that you were in, and you can hang that up in your office or your lounge, or maybe you got a den. Oh, a classic den.
Yeah.
These Fat Bison signs look great in a den. Get that, hang it over the mantle, over the fireplace. We're also sponsored by Champion Vintage, champion_vintage_OKC on Instagram.
And lastly, we're sponsored by Manscaped. Listen, if you are listening to this podcast stuck inside your house with your significant other, I want you to pay attention for a moment. Today's sponsor, Manscaped, can help you out and make the most of your time together. Manscaped promotes clean hygiene when it comes to shaving your nuts, your balls, your twig and berries, your undercarriage. It's time to quarantine. It's time to Manscape. and chill. Manscaped is the only men's brand dedicated to below-the-waist grooming and hygiene. You're probably spending more time than ever with your significant other right now. And let me tell you, if you don't keep clean down there, your partner will notice. Listen, they sent us the Perfect Package 3.0 in the mail. It came beautifully packaged, got a t-shirt, got some undies, got some lotions, lubes, and salves, and all kinds of things. It is fantastic. This third-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to prevent manscaping accidents. Millions of balls are about to be nick-free thanks to Manscaped's advanced skin-safe technology. And of course, let's not forget the Crop Preserver, an anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer. I love keeping my balls moist. You got to keep them moist, much like a seed.
Oh, for sure.
You already put deodorant on your armpits, right? So why are you not putting deodorant on the smelliest part of your body? You can get 20% off plus free shipping with the code BOYS at manscaped.com. Do yourself a favor and always use the right tools for the job. Again, that's 20% off plus free shipping with the code BOYS, B-O-Y-S, at manscaped.com. Lastly, I want to thank you guys for listening to the show, for the donations, for the spreading the word, for the guest recommendations, the emails, everything else. You know, these are crazy times we're living in right now, but you guys are helping us and we're helping you. And for that, I thank you. You know who that was?
Was that Bill Clinton?
It was. It was Billy C.
Throw that into the old repertoire.
I'm going to have to. We also, by the way, I do want to mention we have a hotline. It's 405-582-0242. You can call. There's a beep. Leave a message. We might just play it on the show. I think that'd be fun. What do you think,
I think
Josh?
so too. I think now in these times of being home alone, you know, you're not really doing anything else. Why not lay on your couch or lay on your bed like girl talk, and then put your head on your pillow. Give us a call. You'll hear Rob's sultry voice. And then after the beep, just let it all out. You know, tell us who you're crushing on. You know, tell us what you've been doing, what you've been up to. We want to hear it.
Yeah,
verbally.
dish. Yeah. Dish to us. Let's get some juicy nuggets. I'd love that. But without further ado, on to the show. Okay, welcome to episode 194. We are here with a very special guest, Josh Hogan of the Mowglis.
Hey.
How you doing, Josh?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Dude, we're just living that quarantine life, you know, just
Yeah.
things are slowly opening up. I actually ventured out into the world yesterday. It was a very gratifying yet scary experience, but you know, you're in California, right?
Yes, in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
And
so
it's-
things are a little
yeah.
different there than here.
Maybe so. I've been seeing that you guys have had some storms. Is that correct?
Yeah,
You've had some tornado warnings and things.
And large hail.
Which-
There was hail like, I think it was ping pong ball size the other day, and I just bought a new pickup, so I'm freaking out about it.
Oh no!
Yeah, dude, it's scary.
you
It's
get
that time
some
of year
vents?
here. I didn't. We got about pea-sized hail, but the big stuff missed us. Thank God, because that
Yeah.
would be my luck. You know, get a nice vehicle, and then it gets like decimated the first 3 months that you have it. You know, par for the course here in Oklahoma. But
Classic. Yeah. Yeah. Well, out here it's been sunny and beautiful. Actually, we did have a few days of rain, which I always appreciate. And it seems like for the most part that's like the winter that we get is like,
Right.
you know, it'll be maybe a month of rain. They call it. We also have a thing called June gloom, I guess,
Okay.
and that's sort of like our spring rain where it just is cloudy for a second and everyone's so sad because it's cloudy and
Right.
like
Yeah,
the
but then you have
first
like
time I-
but then it
70,
goes away.
then you have like 75-degree weather like the rest of the year. So there's really not
The
a
rest
whole
of the
lot.
year.
Yeah.
the very
Yeah.
first time I went to California, I had never been until I was, let's see, I'm 39 now. So I was 36 the first time I got to go to California for work. And we land.
Nice.
It was raining from the time we got there until the time we left, like 4 days later. And I was like, oh, this is such bullshit. I've always wanted to come out here and experience this 75 degrees and perfect weather,
Yeah.
go to the beach, do all that stuff. We even rented a convertible and we didn't even get to put the top down. I was so bummed.
No,
Dude.
I'm
but
so sorry.
I've been 4 years since, and every time it's been perfectly beautiful every time. So
Good. I'm glad you got that, like, that retribution or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
It just took a while.
that's cool. Beautiful. I love it out here, to be honest. I love Oklahoma. I still it's like in my heart forever, you know.
Totally.
And
Now, were you born in Oklahoma?
My dad was in the Air Force, and
Okay.
my parents were in England for about 4 years. And so my sister and I were both born, or maybe it was longer than 4 years, but whatever. We were both born there on like a Royal Air Force base
Oh,
called Royal Air Force Base Lakenheath. And or RAF Lakenheath is what they call it. And yeah, so I was born in England. I lived there for maybe like a month. And then I came to Oklahoma with my family. They had family there, and so I was, I was born in England, but it's like I wasn't really, I was like born there, and that was it.
Right.
I don't remember any of it.
Right. Now, when did you find yourself in Oklahoma?
What do you mean, like?
Like when did you move to Oklahoma? Your family?
Oh, that was like I mean I think it was before I was even a year old.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I was like a newborn baby, and they were like, "Let's get on a plane and go to Oklahoma." And
Yeah.
They, my parents. I got to go a couple of years ago. I got to go and see where my parents lived, in this little town called Buckden. And from London, Katie, my wife, and we took like a train up to Cambridge, and then from Cambridge we took a bus over to Buckden. Which actually we had to get on a different bus. So it was like a train and 2 buses. And it was just one of the weirdest experiences, public transit wise for me.
Yeah, I don't know anything about public transit, to be honest. I mean, being
Oh
from
my
Oklahoma, it's like it doesn't exist here.
Yeah. It's like it does, but you don't really know about it.
Right. There's a couple city buses, that's about it. But.
Yeah. And in Los Angeles, it's been like 10 years or more since I've had a car. So I haven't owned a car. And that was a wild transition, to be honest, but I love it actually. I live like kind of central, and so I ride the train here, and I ride the bus sometimes. I ride my bike a lot.
Yeah.
I walk a ton. I get in the car with my bandmates, so everything's chill. But I couldn't believe getting to go and see this place where my parents lived. It was basically an old like castle that was turned into a monastery. Is that the right word?
Sure. Yeah. We'll go with monastery.
Yeah, and then it was turned into apartments after that, and they lived there with this cool little community, and there was a church in there. But my point is that the town was really small. It was like really, really small, like one of those like Oklahoma towns that you like blink and you've driven through it,
Right. Most of the ones here, outside of the metro.
Yeah. I mean, it's wild how many of those there are in England also. Just like these beautiful little, tiny little towns, and I don't even know if they're called towns, but
they probably have some
Buckton,
like proper name, like a province or something like that.
Something.
Yeah.
Buckton was really cool, and it was cool to like walk into the grounds of this old castle. I mean, it's like surrounded by walls, and it was just so beautiful. And just imagining my parents in their 20s living there, that was kind of awesome, And so that's why they moved to Oklahoma. And I'm sorry I ramble on.
No, please. That's the whole point.
That was
man.
like the reason they decided Oklahoma, out of like, my dad's family was all in California. My mom's family was all in Oklahoma. So they liked the sort of like farmy kind of countryside of England, and they decided to move to Oklahoma to get some of that aspect, in their American life.
Yeah.
And that's cool. And they did. And we ended up moving to Edmond, and that's like where we sort of like planted ourselves, and so and Edmond was growing like so fast when I was growing up.
It still is, man.
I was gonna
huge
say
now.
It still is. Every time I visit, I see something new or 25 new things,
Yeah.
and it's crazy to me how those like outskirt streets that used to be just 2 lanes and stop signs, there's like Walmarts out there. Those on-cue gas stations are nuts.
That's how you judge
Those
the
things.
size of a growing city: is the on-cues, the Torchy's Tacos, the Jimmy John's, all the amenities that we need.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
True.
So Yeah, my girlfriend and I, we've been on this quarantine. I've been back to work for this week was my third week back, but one thing we've been doing in the quarantine is watching a lot of travel, like I guess vlogs or whatever you want to call it, stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
And we found this one girl that we really liked, and she goes to Japan a lot, but she's gone a lot of places. And I mean, I'm a simp, I'm a rube. I have never been outside of the United States. I'm just not much of a traveler, man. I would love to, but I think it's a little intimidating for me since I've never done it, like leaving the country, getting the passport, being in a place where maybe you don't speak the language or have any lay of the land, I mean, it sounds great, but at the same time, it sounds a little bit terrifying.
So you don't have you don't have a passport either, Robbie?
I do not.
Me
No,
neither,
do you?
dude. I'm 38 years old. A grown-ass man should have a passport, and I don't. And every year, Diane and I tell ourselves, this year, let's get ourselves those passports. It's not a lot of money. It's like $150 or something, but it's just one of those things you put on your checklist and you just never do. And then
I went and got passport photos and then didn't follow through with the passport.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
That's impressive.
get
It was a
nervous.
weird time. But I have a really sweet photo of me on a blue background that looks nothing like me now.
Nice.
But yeah,
Solid.
one of the places that I would really like to go is Japan. I'm kind of a weeb
Same.
at heart. I like, video games and some anime and like all that kind of culture. I really like that stuff, even though I don't really wear it on my sleeve that much for fear of persecution. But I would love to go to Japan. And this girl, she goes by Pretty Pastel Please on YouTube. And she goes over there all the time. And she was there for, I think, like 3 weeks, which you tell me. I think if you were to go to a place like Japan, you don't go there for 4 days. Like, you go for a week or two, right? What do you think about that,
Yeah,
Josh?
or I would say at least I would want to go for like a week and really explore, because that's just how I am. I'm like, I don't typically plan a ton when I'm traveling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love to just explore cities, especially a place like Japan that I had never been to. I mean, there would be like a few highlights that I would want to hit, but in my experience, I've done a couple of Europe trips where we've tried to squeeze too much in. So we'll have, let's say we have 4 or 5 days, and we'll try to hit like 3 cities instead of just spending 4 or 5 days in one place.
Yeah.
And that's cool. But it's like kind of exhausting at the end. And every single time I sort of wish that I had like spent the whole time in one place. And
Totally.
yeah, so that's something cool. And I guess for Europe, it's so easy to travel like all across Europe once you're over there. Like when we did our UK tour, we went over to Paris and Amsterdam because the flights were so cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And like the flights were even cheaper than the train. And after that experience, I realized that the train is just more convenient.
Makes sense.
And it like kind of seems like it'd be the opposite, I guess. But the whole process of going to the airport and going through all that security, and especially traveling internationally, and you gotta you just have to go through the whole thing. And at the train station, maybe this is sketchy, but you don't.
Right. You just walk through.
You just don't have to go through that.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's security, and they're like scoping things out and everything, and it seems like a safe place for the most part. But yeah, that was our last experience, like traveling through Europe. We did the plane instead of the train, and I kind of recommend the train.
Okay. Hey, good to know, man. And, I think with the train, I'm assuming there's no pat downs,
No,
things like
and-
that.
And there's internet. There's like the drink cart. You can go get a coffee and a sandwich or whatever, a beer.
Man, I'm a gigantic fan of railway travel. I highly suggest
yeah.
it for anyone. I mean, from Oklahoma, we've talked about it before on the show, but you can only go one direction. You can only go south.
Right.
And like,
It's like, get out of
yeah.
here.
Get
Just
the hell out-
leave.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, there's like California. You can go all the way up the coast, all the way into Canada, and it's beautiful. It's amazing, and it's cheap as hell. Like, and you can get around super cheap. You don't have to deal with the TSA. There's no one taking your shoes off
Right.
and going through your bags. You just
Yeah.
and you're free to
Oh,
go
the
wherever you
shoes.
want.
And the belt.
Mm-hmm.
Just let
The
me
belt's
keep my
the
belt
worst,
on.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the worst. It's like,
It takes so long.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about me. I used to have really long hair, but every time I'd go through the TSA checkpoint, I would get pulled aside. Every single time. I have no idea why. Maybe I looked weird. Maybe it's because I was wearing a Grateful Dead T-shirt and they thought, oh, this guy's muling some shit, you know. But I have been assaulted by the TSA at least 15 times, and it's never a pleasant experience ever. I know they're just doing their jobs, and I mean, I wouldn't want to do that job, you know. So I always try to be friendly, but I'm like, what is it about me? And then when I cut my hair off, I've never been pulled aside again. So I think that whole like hippie, you know, tucked my hair up inside my hat and walked inside, whatever that song is.
Oh,
like,
signs,
I think that
yeah.
I think there is still some truth to that, even in a modern society. So,
yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah. So you do a lot of traveling with the band, the Mowglis.
Yes,
and
we do. We're lucky people.
You
Very
are,
lucky.
man. What would be, you know, not to put you on the spot, but what would be your favorite place, or maybe a couple of places that you visited? They can be in the States or, you know, abroad, wherever.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Honestly, we have like our handful of favorite places in the States. I always love going to New York. I've always had New York in my heart, as you know, since I was a kid, and I actually always pictured myself moving to New York when I, you know, growing up and thinking about when I get out of this place, or what, you know, like when
as
I
we
grow
all
up,
did,
I want to,
yeah.
and so it's funny that I ended up in Los Angeles, but I'm super grateful that I did. But I've always just loved New York so much, and Chicago as well.
I love Chicago, man.
Badass.
I guess like when I was a kid, my dad won some tickets to go to see the Bulls play in Chicago, and they played like I think they played Portland Trailblazers, and it was like the year after Michael Jordan left. Like, you know how he left for like 1 year or whatever?
Yeah.
It was that year.
Oh my gosh. So cool, but also kind of whack at the same time.
Well, you still had, like,
dude.
Pippen, right? Like, was he still playing?
Yeah, totally. We had all the guys, just not Jordan.
Not the guy.
And it was still really cool and like awesome to be there and to be in that arena. And then I think maybe just a few, like not long after that, they built a whole new arena. So I got to experience like the old spot, you know, which was cool. And I remember like trying, you know, deep dish pizza for the first time.
Dude,
my dad
same.
and I ordered like 2 medium pizzas and didn't realize that like a half of one is too much.
Yeah, dude, it's pizza soup, man. You like there. So
Dude.
when I go to Chicago, I've been to Chicago 3 or 4 times for work. We hit up CME and we'll do events there, Chicago Music Exchange, and we always stay in the same hotel right on the Magnificent Mile. And there's a pizza place right across the street. And we don't like we'll drive from the airport to the hotel, but we don't drive while we're there, except for going to the event. You know, we'll walk around, explore. But the first time I went, I was like, I got to get that classic Chicago flavor. I got to get it. I've never had it. And I got it. And I went by myself, actually, because my boss had something he had to do. It was just the 2 of us. And I went in there and I sat down. It was like in a basement. It was very authentic. And I ordered a medium for myself. And I maybe ate like 1 piece of it, you know.
Yeah, 1 slice and you're done.
But when I got back to the hotel, like I threw it in the fridge, and you know, at night when I was like medicating a little bit, it was like, oh, I got this fucking awesome pizza I can warm up. So it really kept the cost down, you know.
Yeah, but how does a deep dish pizza reheat? You know, I think it's one of those like you eat it and that's it's a one-time thing, I would assume.
It's either, in my opinion, this is opinion. It's either you eat it cold, or you have you have an oven.
Yeah,
you can't microwave that stuff.
No,
it's like you said pizza soup or whatever. Like that would turn into pizza soup, I think.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to be honest. I was stoned a lot, so I didn't warm it up. I might have like warmed it up just to knock the frost off the top, but yeah, it wasn't like a piping hot soup. You know.
The frost.
But I love going to Chicago, and you know, I know that city's got its issues and problems, but I felt as safe there as really anywhere, LA or Brooklyn. You know, it's just like be smart. You know, don't get sketchy. You know,
you know, there's a lot of the Midwest kind of like values and culture and style and everything. Just the whole feel of it is like all over that city, but then it also has this like Manhattan-y kind of feel in some places, and I think that's one thing that I've always loved. One reason I love it so much is like it has a bit of that Oklahoma Midwest feel, Oklahoma City feel, and then it has a little bit of the big city feel as well. Another I guess like since we started touring, I've gotten to explore the whole country really, and it's been really cool. One of my favorite trips that really always stands out was going to play in Anchorage, Alaska.
Oh wow.
Whoa.
And yeah, and our and we went and we played this real show in like a real venue to probably like 500 people or something. And
The whole
it felt
state came.
amazing.
Yeah.
And it turns out Anchorage just feels like Columbus, Ohio or something. It's like a college town. There's kids everywhere. There's like bars. We went out and like met all these locals or like college kids that live there right now. And but the craziest thing about it was going up to this town called Whittier, and they call it the city under one roof. And it was like an old military city where they built this one big ass building and everyone lived in it.
Wow.
It was like there's only like 220 people in the town, and it's grown since. Now there's like that building is actually abandoned, and I have all these creepy photos of it. You can Google it, like Whittier, Alaska, a city under one roof. It's the crazy. Like I think going there was fun, but then reading all about it was like the crazy part because we're like, oh my god, like. But yeah, that was a good one. I love the Pacific Northwest. I love the whole like West Coast.
Yeah.
Growing up, I think I used to be a lot more into like Florida and those like southern beaches, but I'm like not as into them anymore as I was.
Well, like Miami,
offense.
like party towns, like that kind of a vibe.
You know, Miami is like a little diamond in the rough down there. I'd say it's like it's a cultural melting pot, and I love it actually.
Yeah, I've never been to Florida. I'd love to check it out.
Oh, I've been to
Yeah.
Florida,
It's
but
wild.
I've been to like the parts of Florida that you know is like the South. It's like Jacksonville and Gainesville.
Yeah.
And like trashy Florida. Even Orlando is like kind of the South. It's you're getting more into like it's starting to get a
Oh my
little more
gosh.
cultured in Orlando, but I mean it's mostly just
Yeah.
Disney. You know, change the name of that. goddamn-
Orlando is kind of amazing. It's unique. There's this one section in downtown where they like close off the streets, and I don't know if it's just on the weekends or if it's every night or what, but I've experienced this like 3 or 4 different times from going to Orlando and playing this one specific venue, and they just literally like block the streets and everyone just gets trashed. It's like South by,
Yeah.
kind of, you know?
Right.
Except it's Florida. And I don't know how else to explain that.
It's just
Yeah.
its own special thing, you know? Nothing like it.
Yeah, well, I was there a while back for a show, and I stayed in this neighborhood called Thornton Park, and it was like a cool neighborhood. The neighborhood reminded me a lot of Mesta Park in Oklahoma City, but imagine smack dab in the middle of Mesta Park is this little like place that has bars and shops and like a couple of venues. Like what the
Yeah.
hell? Like everything's super
Some
walkable.
walkability.
Yeah,
That's
dude,
the
that's the one thing
best.
with Oklahoma I don't like is I love this state.
Yeah.
It's a great state or what, you know? But if we lack the walkability. Like I really want to
We
be able
really
to
do.
like walk out of this place and then, you know, walk a half a mile. You realize like Robbie, you've done it. You're Mr. Travel. You know, you stay in a hotel and you can walk 7-8 miles in a day and not even realize it. Like
Oh, totally, man.
Yeah.
When last time we went to NAMM, we were walking from the hotel to the convention center because the traffic was so bad and parking was
Yeah.
so bad, and it was like a
Yeah.
3-mile walk. And you know, we'd get up early and hit the lobby for some free breakfast, and then like make the walk. And we'd walk by Disney every day, and it was nice just to be able to walk. I mean, it was kind of a long walk, and at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it was always a little more grueling than getting up in the morning and stretching your legs. But it was nice, and fuck, you know, sitting in a car for literally 2 hours just for a 2-mile drive. It's like,
Yeah.
no, we're just gonna walk.
Yeah.
But yeah, Oklahoma, you're right, Josh. Oklahoma is severely lacking that. I mean, I love Oklahoma. I'm glad to be here. You know, when I was younger, I did the move away, get out of here, you know, but found myself back here. And, you know, if that's the worst thing I can complain about is the walkability, then I think we're doing all right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
speaking of, I follow our mayor, David Holt, on Twitter, and he tweeted 2 days ago that Oklahoma City is now officially in the top 25 largest cities in the United States.
I saw that. Like, okay, but I didn't read the article. I definitely just did the headline viewing.
Right.
So, like, is it by population size? or-
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, not land area or anything like that, but we eked in at
Okay.
25. And what's funny is I
Wow.
forget the city that we're right above, but it's only a difference of like 800 people.
Crazy.
So yeah,
Wow.
we barely got in there, but that kind of made me feel good. You know, a lot has changed here since we were kids. You know, I think bringing in the
yeah.
basketball team was a huge thing for our city.
Huge.
I mean,
That was a big deal, and it was like the year after I left or something.
Oh, was it
So I
really?
kind of bummed out.
Yeah. Well, man, you know, I remember being a kid and, you know, like when I was young, I was into football. So I loved the Kansas City Chiefs. I loved like the 49ers. I was basically a Joe Montana stan, as the kids say.
Yeah.
So
Same.
I loved them. And then, you know, when I was young, I liked basketball. I loved the Bulls. I don't know. Maybe it was just their logo. Maybe it was Jordan.
Double.
Maybe it was
Yeah.
Rodman.
Both.
I don't know, man. But
It
but
was
I,
it was all that.
dude, speaking of, have you watched any of the Last Dance yet?
I haven't. I want to.
Yeah, I
it's
just
on my
started
list
it.
of- oh, cool.
I'm only one
I will
episode
watch
in
it.
Dude, yeah, I'm one episode in, and there was a lot of hype around it. A lot of people were talking about it, are talking about it.
It's the next Tiger King, man.
Dude, yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Without the murder, and,
Yeah,
you
without-
know,
yeah, and
gay
the- yeah,
sex,
gay
and
marriage and all that.
stuff.
Murder,
I mean,
yeah.
for all we know, that they might have just not put that in there.
I mean, Dennis Rodman, come on.
Well, those mustache
But,
years, Michael Jordan mustache years got a little weird.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
You know, I actually read on tour. I read a book that a friend of mine gave me called "The Jordan Rules," and it was like written by one of those sports news writers, like of the time. You know, who was literally with the team all the time, writing about them, and it did seem like a very like dramatic kind of time at times, I guess. You know,
Totally.
and I understand. It's like when you're so passionate about something and you're going for it like so heavily, so at full force, you know, it's almost like you'll do anything to get to that like end goal, you know. And I know that that like Jordan started having, you know, a say in a lot more than just being a player.
big time.
And I know that happens like with a lot of professional athletes, a lot of like star athletes, you know, start sort of running the show. So I'm really excited. I just reading the book was awesome, and it like it didn't paint, you know, Michael Jordan as like a terrible guy or a great guy.
Right.
It was just like, here's some stuff he did.
Yeah, he's just a dude that's like very good at basketball, like very good,
And-
maybe the greatest,
And
maybe.
pretty damn good at baseball.
No,
No.
didn't he golf too? Didn't
I
he
think
try
so.
golf?
Okay, when he went to baseball, was that the same time when Garth Brooks tried to play baseball? You remember that?
Oh,
Garth Brooks.
I
Maybe?
don't remember that.
He went to
I
the
thought you were
Chicago
gonna
White
say
Sox,
when-
I think.
I thought you were gonna say when Garth Brooks came out with that
Chris Gaines?
alter ego.
Might have
guy.
been the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
time. Garth did some weird shit. I had the thought like, so when you're a person like Michael Jordan or a Kobe Bryant, R.I.P., you know, you have to know that you're the best, right? And that's like you said earlier, like that's what pushes you, right? You keep striving to be because you know it. Like, but I never grew up having, because I've never been the best at anything. I guess that just might be something that's inherently innate in you. Like, how would living your life knowing that you're the best at something? God, that's got to be a weird feeling, you know? Like,
What is the saying? Like, heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I think there's probably some cases where, you know, it's like those people who are the best are like narcissistic, like egomaniacs, and they know they're the best.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
that
yeah.
probably like works for them and drives them to keep being the best. But then I think also some people are who people say you're the best or you're like amazing, you're the greatest at this or that. Like they don't think that about themselves. And so in a weird way, it's like a win-win because like when you don't think that you're the best, you want to like keep pushing to be better.
Yeah.
But then when you think you're the best and you're just this ego person, you know,
Or the worst
then you keep pushing anyway because you want to stay there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or the
That's
real
weird.
worst is when someone thinks they're the best and they're totally not, but they're just a total fucking asshole.
yeah.
We see that happen quite a bit. In the
Oh, that's yeah. That's all
Quite
over
quite
the place.
unfortunate, yeah. So, man, let's go back a little bit. So, you know, right now you're the guitarist in the Mowglis, and that is themowglis.net, at
Yes.
the Mowglis on Instagram, the Mowglis on Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. And that's MOWGLIS, just for
Yes.
the people that can't understand me.
Well, if you're a
It's
fan
the
of-
Mowglis.
Gremlins, right? Is that
No,
Gremlins?
Jungle Book.
Jungle Book.
Jungle
what's
Book,
the
yeah.
What's the Gremlins?
Mogwai.
Mogwai.
Another great
Oh,
band.
yeah,
Another great
yeah,
band.
yeah.
Yeah.
But let's talk about before that, man. Fun. I want to talk about how you got to where you are now. So, when did you start playing guitar first, or was it another instrument? And when was that? Tell me how you got into that.
Yeah. So I think it was when I was 8 years old. Well, first of all, I grew up in a very musical family in Edmond. My dad was like the choir leader at our small church, and my mother was the pianist. And then we at some point moved to a little bit of a bigger church, but my parents and me and my sister, we were all still very involved in the church and like in the musical aspects especially, Mm-hmm. And so and our church there in Edmond, it's called Henderson Hills. It's like they've since moved to a bigger campus, but they always put on lots of plays and it's like, it's kind of cool looking back on it. Like art and music was such a big part of my childhood there.
Absolutely.
And I really appreciate that. So I learned how to sing and how to harmonize and all that as a kid before I was even like into Green Day or like anything,
Right. Yeah.
And so like, I was 8 years old. My parents bought me an acoustic guitar, and it was like too much for me. I like couldn't play. I couldn't hold those strings down. It like hurt too bad. It hurt my fingers.
Oh, it takes me back to calluses, like just blisters on the fingers from trying to play power chords on an acoustic.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's like, and so basically my first guitar, my parents ended up taking back because I wasn't into it. And they bought me this like big fish tank filled with goldfish.
Cool.
And I remember being stoked. I was like, this fucking rules.
Upgrade.
This is something I can work with.
Yeah.
And then it was like, fast forward to, I was in 8th grade, and 8th grade's a big year for most kids, I think. It's a big, there's something about it. Like you're changing, you're coming into this like teenage self, and all the angst is coming in there.
Oh yeah, you're just exploding on the inside.
You're exploding, yeah. And I remember getting Dookie by Green Day on cassette, by the way.
Oh yeah.
And like,
was it the blue cassette?
I think so. I think the cassette was blue.
I thought that made it even cooler back then.
Wow. That's wild.
Or it was like a clear cassette with like the blue like
the blue
metallic
blue
inside.
in
Well,
there.
they did it on the cassette,
yeah.
and then the CD had, there was the bind with the side of a CD case, with the plastic. One was brown.
Yeah, the part that's usually black.
Yeah, it was brown. If you found the brown one, that was the good one. You want that one.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I was, I think, 14, and my birthday's in October, and so like that year for Christmas, my parents bought me an electric guitar, and I was hanging with my friend Ty. I think you guys must know Ty King.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
So Ty and I were like becoming really close friends at the time, and he had a drum kit and he had a guitar, and he was like teaching me how to play a few chords on guitar, and he taught me like a couple of songs and stuff. And so he and I would jam, and I was really interested in the drums also. And so like he, sometimes we would just switch off. Like we would play Purple Haze.
Hell yeah.
like really well, right? Like really.
Yeah, like note
basically
for note.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And, but like he would play guitar and I would play drums. And for some reason I just really got that drum beat, And so I was like, I want to play drums on this one. And so that was kind of the beginning for me. I was like 14, playing in Ty's garage. We had a rotating cast of friends that would come through and play with us, like I don't know, just a bunch of friends, and it was always really fun. But then finally we like started our own band, and we started a 3-piece pop punk band called the Griswolds, and I think I was 16 at that point. And
just
that was
on top
whenever
of the
first,
world,
like,
right? Just
killing it. I like had my own car. Everything was amazing.
Life was good in simpler times.
So in the
then.
Griswolds, were you playing guitar, git fiddle?
Guitar.
If you ask my mom, that was my instrument. But So it depends on who you ask.
So you're throwing
I
your
guess.
your Stratocaster, your SG in the back of. What were you driving? Like, what were you loading your gear up in?
Oh, it was a 91 Blazer.
Hell yeah.
Those are
Dude,
dope.
That
as
shit was
fuck.
sick, dude.
you had the band ride, man.
Yeah.
I did. And like my basically all our gear, we were a 3-piece band, like two amps and a drum kit all fit back there. So like we would just load up, head out and like go play like, you know,
Legion halls.
I was going to say that was the biggest like speed bump for us, was growing up in a town like Edmond. There wasn't necessarily like a secular, if I can say that, like venue for us to play, you know? So we had to team up with a lot of like, we basically just got on board with whatever the churches were doing. Honestly. I mean, that's like, that was just, it was that or play like the once a month show at Hafer Park that someone throws, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was epic. I mean, those things were so much fun.
Yeah, I played one of those
Hafer
too, man.
Park
It was
shows.
it was
Man.
a blast back then.
Like,
So
how do
much
we even
fun.
do that?
I don't know. And looking back, it seemed pretty legit, you know, for a bunch of kids, you know.
Oh yeah. You could rent that place for like $20 or something.
Yeah.
Just like I set up my tent once just to have like a green room.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That was fun. Yeah. So I guess like in those times, I didn't know really what I was doing. I didn't know how to play guitar, to be honest. But I knew bar chords, and I understood the concept of like song structure and, you know, verse, chorus, bridge kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And music was just such a part of me. It was in my blood, you know, since I was a kid. And I always went to sleep to this easy listening station. So I would hear these ballad, like 80s ballads, you know,
Yeah.
like going to sleep to that. I think that's in there. That's all inside me somewhere.
Yeah. Like a melting pot of music.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I think that's one thing that leads me to the Mowglis, to my love for my band. We're like a melting pot of different musicians from different backgrounds and different influence and all that, and we come together and it's like, it doesn't matter what kind of song we write, you know, like we're not bound by that necessarily. So like especially lately, I don't know, it's just throughout our career, we've just kind of like, we've just kept changing it up. We work with different producers. We songwrite differently, like almost all the time, you know, it's just always been changing. And that's exciting.
Absolutely, man.
I love having, you know, that melting pot, like you said.
Yeah.
sort of
That's what
in there.
That's what I get from the Mowglis. Is it's very, I mean, it's very summertime fun type. You feel an atmosphere of like, I don't give a fuck. Not in like the instance of like, we don't care what anybody thinks. It's like, no, but let's just have a good time. We'll write whatever comes out, and we'll just put it to tape. And then if people like it, they like it. If they don't, well, that's fine. We're having fun doing it. You guys just seem like you're always having a good time, especially in your live shows. It just seems like you guys are having a hell of a good time.
I mean, I think at this point we kind of like have a bit of perspective. Like we've had ups and downs. We've done the roller coaster ride, you know. We've had like every band cliche you could imagine happen to us. We've lost 3 members along the way. We lost 2 members before we even started touring.
Oh wow.
Like if you can imagine, the band was even bigger. And yeah, I mean, it's just I feel like we're in a really good place with all of our experience and with our relationships. And our working relationship with our producer and all that, you know?
That's got to feel so good, man, because
it
so
feels
many
great.
bands are plagued with internal problems or things they can't control. And to have a group of people that you can really rely on and gel with, like that has to be such a good feeling, man.
Absolutely. And it's like, I always thought going into this whole thing, it's like if we could, you know, weasel our way into getting signed by a major label, and give them what they want for a couple of records, then we can take that and do whatever we want with it. And I've literally been saying that since I was like 16.
Right.
And that is where we are. That's like the current situation for the Mowglis. We had a couple of records on a major label, and then Our third was like just through our independent label, and ever since we've been releasing EPs independently. And it's, you know, our management always said, like, you're gonna start seeing the benefits of that. It's just like, stick it out. And sometimes it's really hard. And as artists, like, I can't tell you how many times we've questioned what the hell we're even doing with our lives. And like,
absolutely.
how did I get to 38? And I like, you know, all these stupid expectations that should have never been in there in the first place, you know, come into play. But you know, that's why it's important just to have a very open mind, and as an artist especially. And my mom always reminds me, when I told her that I wanted to move to Los Angeles, she said, as long as you don't mind sleeping on floors and eating ramen noodles, then go for it. Go do your artist thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that was intense, Mom. But like,
right. But also it's like, that doesn't sound that bad. I mean, that's what I was doing in my 20s anyways.
right,
you know?
Exactly.
Just drinking a lot.
At some point, yeah, it's like at some point that, you know, you just grow up and that changes. Like your desires change, you know, like I would give anything to live on a farm right now.
Yeah.
Just about. But
I feel you, man.
I also realized that like that could be in my future. And so I'm just kind of like riding this wave that I'm on right now. And I realize how lucky I am to even be here. So I would feel like a complete jerk if I like gave up now, you know?
Totally. So let's go back after what happened after the Griswolds.
Oh yeah. So Griswolds happened. We went through high school together. We were best friends. We like, you know, drove to school every morning listening to NoFX and stuff. And to this day, we're the three original Griswolds are like actually really great friends.
And who is that?
Well, okay, so the band actually started with me and Ty and Dan Nolup.
Okay.
Was on bass. And at some point we got our friend Sean Moore in on guitar, and that was like the four of us were the Griswolds, you know, I guess originally. And it's pretty wild just through Instagram, let's say, and Facebook, you know, like just the amount of connections that I've made with like old friends has been kind of wild. But that's like old news, you know. And then now this quarantine happened, and it's almost like we've all like pulled our heads out of our asses long enough to like realize that we are so disconnected. And I've been connecting with so many old friends in quarantine, and it feels awesome.
I've kind of done the same thing, man. Just like it gives you the opportunity to like look up people that you might have not thought about in a while. You know, and that's you know, there's a lot of terrible shit that happens on the internet, and you know, cyberbullying and just, you know, all that shit, or like the Instagram models with the tea and the butts and the travel.
Yeah.
But there is so much good, and that is one of the things that does rise to the top, is being able to go, oh yeah, I forgot about Kevin. I'm gonna look him up, and oh cool, I'm gonna reach out.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I want to go like hang out every day, but like just to check in and say hey.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love it. And yeah, it's like you said, we almost have, I mean, just, we have so much time to like stop and really look around and be like, oh, what's important? Because like, I have no idea what all this stuff in my hands is, you know?
Yeah.
So after the Griswolds, let's see, we were young and dramatic, and we also had another band with some other friends at the time called 10 Times Better, and that was like with some Memorial High School friends, Eric Walker and Justin Barnes, and me and Sean or Ty. It was like a collection of those people.
Yeah.
And there was this one night where I was like feeling really dramatic, and I quit both my bands. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to try something else. And it was just me being like a dramatic kid, I realize now. But I ended up I started like a little down the line. I started hanging out with this guy, Andy Stinsrud, and Chris Gaylor, who's an All-American reject. And I joined their band. They had a new band called Leasing Nations. And those guys came from this pop punk outfit called Mr. Crispy,
Right.
which were like, the Griswolds really looked up to Mr. Crispy because they they just had their shit together more than we did. They were a little older than us. They had like a couple 7-inches. And they were really good friends, actually. They were like nice to us. I remember their bass player, Kirk, who I'm still in touch with. He like took me into Kinko's one night and taught me how to make stickers out of like crappy little sticker paper.
Hell yeah, dude. That's like,
And-
that's so important back then.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, now you could like you could just Google that or something, but that was a very special, interaction between me and him. And anytime that we go through Salt Lake City, he comes and shoots our band, and we get to see him for a little bit. He lives up in Park City now, and anyway, that's just another kind of like connection, But
Yeah.
So Mr. Crispy, the Griswolds, Mr. Crispy turned into Leasing Nations. I joined Leasing Nations, and then Dan joined Leasing Nations, and then when I was 19, we did a summer tour with this Colorado band called the $8 Experiment.
Mm-hmm.
And it was my first tour. It was, I think, everyone in the band's first tour except for Andy, maybe. Or Andy and Chris, I think, went on tour with Mr. Crispy. Anyway, so we went on tour. It was 3 weeks. It was the 3 best and craziest and most like formative weeks of my life.
Yeah.
To be honest. I mean, as like a little sheltered Oklahoma boy, like I've always realized that I'm a little late to the party, like with most things, and a little bit of a late bloomer. And so I just remember coming home from this 3-week tour with Leasing Nations, and I felt like I had aged like 10 years.
Yeah. The
In
road
that
made
3
you
weeks.
wise, man.
Oh man, it's just like I had seen things, I had learned things I had just never seen before. I like talked to some homeless people in New Orleans. We mobbed around Florida. We went to like Chicago. We just did all these amazing things as a 19-year-old who just is dying to travel,
Yeah. Was it one of those things like when you as soon as you got home, like you plopped down on your bed and you're just like, this is what I want to do. I just want to keep doing that.
Oh yeah.
And you just keep doing it.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's funny. My first thought was like, I don't want to see these guys for a second.
Totally. Totally.
And then it was like, actually, we're onto something here. Yeah, and it's funny because that band was like going pretty well. We were doing great. We were like selling out shows at the Green Door. We suddenly had like a following in the city. We got to open for bigger bands in that theater over by like on Western and
Will Rogers?
over by by Sushi Nico.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny that Sushi Nico is the one place I said out of all those places there that are like way cooler.
and
Yeah.
Well, it's funny.
Only thing
ahead,
left
Josh.
over there now is Sushi Nika. Everything else is gone. Well, I guess
Oh,
VCDs
really?
Yeah,
VCDs
it's
is back,
changing.
New owners and stuff. Well, I saw Leasing Nations play with Turvis.
Yeah, I was going to
At
say that too. The
Medicine
$8
Hall.
Experiment. Yeah. We played, my old band played with $8 and Leasing Nations. I believe it was at a VFW or
I think it was
Legion
Medicine Hall in Norman, that downstairs venue.
something like that. But yeah, I
Wow.
still have the flyer to that. It's got
That's amazing.
It's got the
I'd
picture of
love
the
to see that.
$8 guys, and I think it has
Yeah.
Jeff Spicoli from Fast Times on the
Oh,
flyer.
yeah.
I'll dig it out and I'll send it to you. I'll show you a
Dude, that's
picture
so
of it. man.
rad.
Yeah, I still got that somewhere. But yeah, and we never had any success. We didn't tour, but we played locally, and we had like a little tiny buzz going, and people coming out to the shows, and even that, man, was enough for me to like keep going, keep going at least for a while. And man, just
especially then, yeah, like as a at the time I was 19 in Leasing Nations, 19, 20, that's a really big time in a kid's life.
dude, formidable.
Yeah,
Is that
Trent,
formative? Whatever the fucking word is.
Yeah.
It's a very, very, very important time. I mean, you're literally figuring out life as you
Yeah.
go on.
Yeah, you're coming. You're still a teenager. You're becoming an adult, but you're not quite an adult. You think you are. I mean,
Yeah, you think you know everything.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, but at
Oh,
38
yeah.
now, I'm like, I was a child between like
I was a baby.
until I was like maybe mid to late 20s. I was just a kid doing
I'm
dumb
still
shit.
a kid,
Yeah, I'm
dude.
still a kid doing dumb shit.
I get away with still being a kid because I play in a band for a living, and
Yeah.
you know, and I have kids as fans, so like that's my
Keeps you
excuse.
young, man. Well, you know, you look young. You know, you don't look like you're knocking on 40's door. I don't think I do either.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
You guys are great.
We're blessed, man. We're totally blessed.
Thank you.
So I'll never forget that tour. I mean, it was a very specific, first tour of my life. Fast forward to a couple years like later in Los Angeles, I did a showcase for this A&R guy who worked with the Rejects, and he was like, "So, which one of you is Josh? I'm supposed to talk about the White Buffalo drive-through tour or something." And I was like, "What?" I was like, and that was just like a silly story from our first Leasing Nations tour that like Chris must have told his A&R guy to like mention to me, which was just like a fun little connection. But so after Leasing Nations toured, we had good things going for us. I feel like as people, we started to sort of just like go in different directions, you know?
Right.
And our bass player Dan was gone, and we were recording with Wes Sharon in Oklahoma City. I don't know if you guys know him, but and I don't even know if he like still makes records or what, but he had the Devil's Workshop studio.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
So he had a cool spot like down on I don't know, sorry, but down near downtown, and it was like there was like I want to say there was like a milk factory nearby. There's a milk factory.
Yeah,
Borden.
Yeah, we're there by
it was
the
like
Borden
across
plant.
the street from that. And so anyway, we went there to make a record with him, and we found out that he was like still struggling with like some addiction things, and I think that alone, like the fact that we couldn't even get through this recording process sort of was like the last straw that like broke us.
Yeah.
And our singer at the time, Andy, was like dating a girl in Florida, and I could tell he like really wanted to just be with her, and he was like, "I'm gonna go." And
Yeah.
I was like, "I'm feeling like I need to do something else musically or something with my life." And he was like, "Well, if you're gonna do that, I'm gonna go to Florida." And I was like, "Well, okay, well, peace then, I guess."
Yeah. Catch you later.
And so that was like the end of Leasing Nations, kind of, you know. And at that point, I got back with Ty and Sean, and we started our band back up, but we called it something new. And I had heard Clarity by Jimmy Eat World, and so my whole life changed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
From like a songwriting standpoint, and so I was like, I think I was just writing better songs. I was like influenced by better music, and I was writing better songs in my opinion.
You're gaining experience. You know, you got some shows and
I was
records under your
growing
belt.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You hear Clarity.
All that stuff.
You buy a delay pedal, and you're like, oh shit, I can make songs that sound really pretty and very
damn,
big. Let's do this.
Yeah. And it's funny that was the order of the things.
Yeah.
I heard Clarity, I bought a delay pedal, and like the rest is history. And so we started like the Griswolds back up essentially, but we were like, we got to call it something else, and because it was a different band. And so we named it after this neighborhood that we used to hang out in, like when it was a field, you know, like we hung out in this field because there was a pond, and the pond had like this hill and these trees, and there was a rope swing, and like and we just hung out at this pond. It was like we called it like the spot, or you know, something generic.
Right.
And then they were like, oh, they started doing the roads. They put the roads in, and they put the neighborhood sign, and the neighborhood was called Bristol Park, and they put the pool in, and there were no houses like for like months. And so we went there every night and swam in the pool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like with our friends. And then that kind of sparked for a year or so there. We had this crew that would just mob around Edmond swimming in pools at night.
Nice.
And there are some sick pools in Edmond.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Like apartment. We would never jump in anyone's backyard, but like apartment complex pools,
Oh,
or
yeah.
In this case, like the neighborhood pool that didn't have any houses yet.
That's so wild, man. So it was like your
So
own little
weird.
like oasis, you know?
Yeah, and dude, we didn't get caught once. doing the pool thing.
Dude,
I couldn't believe it.
That's so funny. We did that. We would do that too. We would jump like apartment complex fences to go into pools. There's one over by, what's that gun range? It's like a Western. It's like kind of an industrial area, but there's an apartment tower thing there, and you have to literally scale this brick wall to get to it, and then jump. It's a pretty high jump, and you jump. You don't hurt anything because you still want to go swimming. And we would swim in that, and then not realize, oh shit, we got to climb back out to get out of this thing. And you're
wet. Yeah.
Wet. And we just,
oh no.
Just kid shit. I wouldn't jump a fence now. I would be so afraid I would injure myself. You know,
right.
We talked about growing up and gaining experience. There's just some things we won't do these days, and jumping a fence is high on my list.
Yeah. Yeah. So Bristol Park named the band after the neighborhood, Bristol Park, and then we sort of like did our thing for a little while, and I think that we were all sort of like growing up, and you know, everyone's sort of got this like predetermined expectation of like what your life's supposed to be like. By the time you're 25 you should have this kind of thing. And
we got to be signed,
so
and
just like, and not even specifically about music, just about like life in general and stuff. And like I got married at 22, and that was like a very Oklahoma thing for me to do.
Oh
know?
Yeah.
And so I guess at the time with Bristol Park, we were all very wrapped up in our own lives and our full-time jobs, and you know, like figuring out life, navigating this weird life, and trying to have this band at the same time. And so I guess my point is that it didn't really work that well, because it was just like everything was super prolonged because we weren't really like working that hard on it, you know?
Right.
And there was a point where our friend Robbie Mandracia moved back from, I think he had been here in Los Angeles for a little bit, and or he went to recording school, I think in Florida actually. This was before he moved to Los Angeles, and he came to Oklahoma, and he jammed with us, and we were like, you should be in our band. and he recorded us also. And so he was like the fourth member of Bristol Park there at the end. And it also was a bit of a rotating, like we had like a couple of different bass players at the end. And like I said, it was like everybody was just a bit wrapped up in like their own lives. And for me, I felt like it was my little baby, and I never felt like I should do this on my own. So I just kind of took what I could get out of my bandmates, you know?
Yeah.
And I guess like over time that just kind of started to wear on me. And then I had this opportunity to move to Los Angeles, and join this band called Oh No Not Stereo. And Oh No Not Stereo's drummer was a kid from Edmond also.
Wow.
Michael Agee was his name. That's weird. I almost forgot it. He went to Edmond North, and like we didn't go to the same high school, but we always were in the same like circle of friends. And he was a drummer, his band and my band, you know, no matter what band I was in, it was like I was always playing in some band that was playing with his bands.
Right.
And so he had moved to Hollywood, teamed up with this kid Sky, and they had a 2-piece rock band called Oh No Not Stereo. And they came through, they reached out to me, and they were like, we're doing a little tour. Can we book a show with you guys in Oklahoma City? And I actually, we had like on the night they wanted a show, we had planned this party out at Ty's dad's place, like kind of out towards Guthrie. And so we already were having a party, and we had done house shows out there anyway. So we were like, let's just make this party a show. And it was probably more kids showed up to that show than would have showed up to like any other venue.
Totally.
To be honest.
Yeah.
So like, so it was awesome. and I just remember like getting in the car with them and listening to their record that they had just finished. And I had played them a bunch of songs that I recorded with Mike Kinnerty from All American Rejects, kind of on my own. And I hadn't really like made them Bristol Park songs yet, or done anything necessarily, made any decisions. So I was playing them my songs, and they were playing me theirs, and they were like, this is so cool, you should just be in our band. And I was like, you're right, I should.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, after like it didn't really even take that long to get it all going. And Michael had an apartment, had like a 2-bedroom apartment with an extra room, and so he just let me move in with him, and well, I moved out there with my ex-wife at the time, who was also from Oklahoma City, and so we lived with Michael, this Edmond kid, and it just felt like great. It felt safe and normal, and so it was a very like fortunate like introduction to Los Angeles for us, because we had sort of this little cushion of like friends and a little bit of a community just based on the band that I was in and our producer, and and so that was a really nice like way for me to be introduced to Los Angeles. I think about people that like move somewhere and move home after a month or something, and it's like, it's easy to be like, oh, you loser, you didn't make it or whatever. But also it's like, it's freaking hard.
Yeah, dude.
And if you're alone, it's like nearly impossible. You got to have like the thickest skin, and you got to have money, and it's just really hard.
Yeah.
So I feel very fortunate, to have Michael and Sky as like my little cushion, my trust fall cushion or something,
So valuable.
Yeah, and to be honest, like I ended up quitting that band after a year and a half, or after like 2 years, because I didn't love what we were doing. I didn't love the people we were surrounding with. It felt very sleazy, and like it was giving me this bad taste about Los Angeles.
Right.
And I knew that it wasn't Los Angeles. I knew it was just the people we were surrounding with.
Was it like stereotypical LA, like rock and roll kind of stuff?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, like 80s, 90s LA shit. I'm like,
Motley Crue shit.
Yeah. You guys, yeah. And I don't know, and that's fine. I mean, everybody parties. Everybody likes to have a good time. Sure. I was just a sheltered Oklahoma boy at the time, and I looking back, I can say that like, if that stuff was going down now, I would have certainly dealt with it differently, and I don't think I would have left the band. That's like, not that I regret that, but I a little bit do. It's like I just regret the fact that I quit. I straight up quit the band, and so fast forward to like several years later, when the Mowglis started touring, I've reconnected with Sky, who lives in Denver, and he's come out to several shows, and we both apologized and did that whole thing, but I haven't gone through that with Michael. I haven't gone through the like, I saw him 10 years later and we talked about how stupid that was. Like, we haven't done that. But maybe one day we will, and that's okay. Because I love the guy. I still have so much respect for him, and so much like gratitude for him essentially getting me out here to Los Angeles, because when I lived with Michael, I met this producer, Christian Hand, and he lived in the same apartment building. So I lived on like the 12th floor, and he lived on the 7th, and I would go down to his apartment and like top line songs in his apartment. And he had this band that sort of fell apart, and they had a few tracks, and that kind of like got our relationship going. And so like he would give me a track, and I would top line it with a lyric and melody, and come back and be like, here's the thing I came up with. And he'd be like, whoa, that's cool. And so we were working together like that. And then we started writing together, and we formed this band called Pan America. And it was like these like super anthemic, like stadium pop rock things.
Yeah.
And that was like what we were going for. We were trying to be like this big, like Third Eye Blind, All American Rejects kind of power pop type band,
Oh, yeah.
And that was really, really fun. I was still just like young, and I had no idea what I was doing, but we made a record, and we had a manager like shop it to all these label friends, because he used to work in A&R in like the major label world. And it turns out most of those people know each other. So like if you're connected with one and they really like what you're doing, they'll send your stuff to all their friends. And so that's what happened. And suddenly we went from being this like me and Christian in his studio apartment making records in Pro Tools, you know, in like literally in a closet.
Yeah.
It was like from that we had to like put a band together because all these labels wanted to see us, wanted to showcase us. And so we went through that kind of like, that was a really wild phase. And that's whenever I met this guy, Jeff Sosnow, who was the A&R guy for the All American Rejects for several years. And that was like such a cool connection, you know, because like I love those guys so much, and I've looked up to them, I've looked up to their career, and it's we've just had such a unique relationship, I think, you know. And so that was really cool, like playing for their A&R guy and having him say like, "Ooh, I like that song, play that one again."
Yeah.
And when I said that to like Mike or Chris, and they were like, "Whoa, he had you play a song again? That's like a really good thing." And I mean, basically the band wasn't really a real band yet, you know. So like every label that came to see us, they'd be like, "Oh, this is gonna age us," but they'd be like, "How many MySpace friends do you have?"
Yeah. Well, that was probably like, 07, probably around that time.
Yeah,
then?
yeah, 06 or 07, I think.
Heavy MySpace music time. Yeah, that's funny. All these
Yeah.
band names you're saying, I'm like, oh, I remember having Pan America and Oh Not Stereo, following them on MySpace.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. And so yeah, like basically like the labels would come and see us, they would realize that we had no following and no like actual fan base.
Yeah.
Because we were in that moment, like we were at the ground level with them, like starting this thing. And so everyone basically said the same thing, like, keep doing what you're doing, play some shows locally, build a fan base, and like show us that you have the drive, because like no label is just going to sign you because you're like hot and sing good.
Right.
That's just not how it works anymore. I mean, maybe it works like that again, but in this time it didn't.
Right. Totally.
So like, I think that was too much for some of those guys, and I don't think anybody really wanted to put in that kind of work. And so that band literally just like went away. It was like the drummer quit. The guitar player was like never really in it to begin with. And then that left me and this kid Michael. And we decided, after like a few months went by and we were like making music together, we decided to keep Pan America alive. But at that point, I had gone through a divorce, and I had gone through like a lot of life change, and I was like listening to a lot of Bob Dylan, straight up, and the music I was writing changed. Suddenly I was writing these like classic rock inspired, like Tom Petty style songs, you know? And so we decided to keep the name Pan America, but we were writing this like new kind of classic rock hipster music or something, and that was really cool. But like the whole thing about Pan America was we had 2 guitars, keys, bass, and drums, and everybody sang except the drummer. And so like we would have some rehearsal days where we would just rehearse vocals and like literally just go like, I would just like strum the first chord, and then we'd all start singing together, and like we had those parts nailed, you know? And that band was just going so well, and our drummer got hired to like play in this touring band, and I couldn't say no. He was really young, straight out of like music school at the Musicians Institute. And he was such a good drummer. He impressed everyone. He impressed our producer, our manager. He impressed everyone. And so I didn't have it in my heart to tell him to stay, because I had no idea what would happen with us. And anyway, he went off and did that. And that was sort of the beginning of the end, I would say, for Pan America, because it's like we had, and I'm seeing a bit of like a pattern here. It's like anytime I had a band that had lots of great momentum, it seems like one or two little speed bumps would like knock us down so hard, and then everyone just gave up instead of like fighting through it.
Yeah, pressing on.
Yeah. And so at the time, me and my friend Michael, we had this band Pan America, and he started the Mowglis, like kind of off on the side. And he got Katie who's my wife now. And
Hey,
he
that
got
worked out nice, didn't it?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Abandoned lady.
He got this kid Peter who owned the dog Mowgli, who we named the band after, and
Okay.
he got this guy Colin who was in our band up until last year, and so those were that was like the four sort of that was like the foundation of the band. They did a show as those four people, and they probably only played like 2 or 3 songs, but then they got our bass player Matt involved. We at early days kind of had a revolving cast of piano players, but Dave was like in there from the beginning, and he's our piano player now. He just had a lot of other projects, and so he was having trouble committing and
juggling
and then
everything.
yeah, and he ended up coming back, and everything was great. And then they asked me to play just one show because they had another guitar player named Matt who couldn't make it, and he had like some health issues, and so he couldn't like always be there. And so they were like, come fill in, and then they asked me to join, and I was like, I'm like the 8th member of this band. What is the point? And it wasn't about how many people or what instrument I was playing. It was about the energy and like the overall like feel that kind of like circulated through the audience and the band on stage, and I could see that as like an outsider. And so early Mowgli days, we were putting on these shows. We started a collective with all our friends who were in bands because we realized we were all competing and we could just be like doing this together. And so we had one website where all the bands, were there at the top, and you could click on whichever band's page you wanted. And it was a way for us to all promote the collective instead of me promoting myself and you promoting yourself.
Yeah, like funnel it all in instead of pulling it in different directions,
Yeah, and so those times were really cool, and like we would put on a show in a venue that had 2 stages, so we could do like festival style, and we would always have like artists painting and DJs maybe, or like some other hippy dippy stuff like crystal readings
Henna,
and stuff like that. Whatever we could get going on, honestly, and that was like a really, really special time. But the reason I'm bringing that up is that I was in Pan America. I would play. It always felt great, but then seeing the Mowglis and seeing the connection between them and the crowd, even then in the early days, it was like something is very special here. And
you knew early on.
I knew I could see it, and I don't even know if they could see it, to be honest. If other Mowglis could see it, but I definitely could see it. And they asked me to join, and I first was kind of like, no, like what's the point? But then I was like, I'm just gonna do it. And I'll say for maybe like a year, we all moved into a house in Venice Beach, and for a little while, I connected with this girl who worked at a jazz and blues club in Santa Monica, and so she got my band Pan America on this Monday night residency. We played every Monday with this artist called Ultra Love, and it was a really special thing, and you could tell there's something happening here. Like this guy Ultra Love was amazing. Like he was like the next like Justin Timberlake, and he had backup dance singers, and he had like horns, and he had this amazing drummer. He just kind of had like the best players, and that's just like another tangent I could go on.
Right.
But my point is like, for a while there in Venice, the Mowglis and Pan America were both happening. And it's like, it seemed like for a second, Pan America was like taking over. But at the time I had basically sort of like arranged all the members of Pan America were just Mowglis anyway. So we played, shows together. We would take over a whole night, and like between the Mowglis, there'd be like 3 or 4 bands that we could put on a bill.
Yeah.
And so that was really fun. So we found a couple venues out on the west side that paid us a few $100, which was new.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Getting paid? That's something.
And very welcome,
Oh my God, it was nuts. And like give us beer and stuff too. And And so like we would take over that whole night, and instead of having to pay 2 other bands, we would keep it in the family, you know, and
Nice.
like Pan America would play, and Dave had this band called Magical Planets, and even like Andy had another band, our drummer now. But that phase really was like very, very special, and it was like there was just something magic happening and with our collective, and then, you know, one day it was like the Mowglis played this kind of battle of the bands contest thing. It seemed silly, but we did it and we won, and we met our manager Anthony, and he basically, we had a meeting with him and his partner John, and we were like, they asked us everything that we want and what we want to do, and we were like in the middle of making a record, I think, or maybe we were just starting, and so we had all these things in place. All the dominoes were like there, you know. And honestly, it was like meeting our manager Anthony was sort of just like tipping that first domino. And I remember he asked me, what do you guys think that you need as a band? And I said, we need a real booking agent to book us real shows, like, so that we're not just playing the same show over and over to the same people. And it was like a week later, we had this agent at Paradigm that was interested in booking us, and Mike Marquis, and he's booked some awesome bands, you know, that we all know. And so that was kind of legendary. Like, and then he and his work partner Matt Galley came to see us, and they have this label called Photo Finish, and they came to see us in Los Angeles play the Sunset Strip Music Festival, and that was like our first big LA festival show, like playing on the street on Sunset Boulevard, you know. That was pretty awesome. And so they came to see us, and they basically offered to sign us like right then and there. They were like, we want to do this and that and this with you. We want to, like, it was just cool. Hearing everything they had to say was like really cool. And of course, you know, like as probably any especially like label contract goes, they said a lot more than they could actually do, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's fine. It is what it is. And at the end of the day, this label Photo Finish, they had a deal with Universal. So like our first record was actually through Island Def Jam, which was a Universal label. But then the Photo Finish imprint was there. And then like the second record was through Republic, which is also a Universal label, because Island and Def Jam split.
Right.
And Island kind of cleaned house, and we were one of those houses they cleaned. and so we were on Republic for the second record, which could have been great, but I feel like we were just put on someone's desk that didn't give a shit, you know?
Right.
I'm surprised
that's
Def
how it
Jam didn't
feels.
want to pick you guys up, you know?
I was surprised too, because, dude, well, I mean, I know that was a joke. I in my head, I thought you said Island, but I was like a little offended that Island people weren't like, yeah, we'll keep the Mowglis, because we had a really decent relationship with them. There's, you know, they have like different radio people in different sections of the country, and we know them all, and I thought things were great, but anyway, we were sort of shuffled, and you know, it's like we did the second record cycle, and things like still seemed like they were doing really well and kind of like growing, and then I think like our band got a little bit restless, kind of, and people wanted to start to kind of branch out and do other things on their own, and so then but having said that, our third record came like 10 months after our second or something,
wow.
which is really crazy.
Yeah.
Because we basically we went on tour. The single didn't like hit radio like they promised it would, and like, you know, they sort of backed us in a corner on that one. Our first single, I'm Good, it didn't hit the radio like they thought. So essentially, like, we had a choice. We could either drag this cycle out, or we could just make new music.
Yeah.
And because this is our life now. This is like the cycle of things. Make music, tour, chill for a second, maybe, and then repeat.
Yeah, totally, man. Let me ask you this. Oh, go ahead. Keep going.
I was just gonna say, but we like made our third record in our rehearsal space like as a band, and it was kind of like our we were like getting back to our roots a little with like a lot of the songs. And I thought it was a pretty well-rounded record, and we had a really great producer on that one, this guy Mike Green, who like worked with like Paramore and lots of like cool kind of rock bands like that, you know.
Yeah.
But that record was really like fun to make. It was a little more like on this independent level, so we didn't have. And at that point, you realize like what resources a major label actually has. You know, just little things like Billboard wants to premiere your song. You know, it's like Billboard doesn't give a shit about me. They're doing like the label guy a favor.
Right. Totally.
You know, little things like that. And I hate to just call out Billboard, but like that's just one example that I could think of. You know?
Yeah. Well, speaking of chilling, you know, let's fast forward a little bit here. How are the Mowglis dealing with this COVID situation and quarantine? I know you've got a live stream thing coming up here, but how did that affect the band? Did it just come in like a wrecking ball and just fuck everything up, or did it give you an opportunity to focus on other things, or how did that work with the band?
Well, I think we were just in UK and Europe in January, and when we came home, we had this whole plan of spending at least like 3 months together in our rehearsal space, writing and making music. And that was obviously, you know, derailed. But I will say, like, I went to Oklahoma for a few days around like spring break. It was like early March, I want to say. And yeah, it was like early March. And it was kind of like people here were already sort of quarantining, you know? But when I got there, it was like the overall feeling was fake news.
Right.
And I went to the mall, dude. And there were kids playing and stuff. And I was just like, this is so bad. And literally 2 days later, all the schools were closed and you couldn't go to restaurants anymore. And I mean, it was kind of interesting being there, seeing it go from like fake news to like, oh, we can't go to school or church.
Right.
So real news.
Yeah.
And I even told a couple of friends, I was just like, it's not fake. I mean, you can't say it's fake. Like, maybe some people are blowing it out of proportion, but we can't even say that because we don't even know anything about it
There's so
yet.
much up in the air, man. Like, there's so much that we don't know.
Oh, and especially then, I mean, like, but so anyway, to get off that topic a little, I came home and Katie and I were just immediately in quarantine before it was like a mandated thing. And I just kind of started writing songs almost every day. Like not every day, but definitely like I feel inspired. And when we're in between tours, we work from home all the time. And so it didn't feel that much different.
Yeah.
It feels different now, but that first few weeks didn't feel that different. And so I actually took something like maybe 5 or 6 days. And I noticed like some artists were doing live streams, and I was thinking like the internet's just going to be flooded with these things. So like maybe we should chill and like give it a second. And then about like the second week of quarantine, people like offers started coming into our team. Like brands wanted to do takeovers or have like us do a Facebook Live, and they'll send us some coffee or little things like that, you know?
Right.
And I'm down for that. I just, at this point, and so we dove into that and we started doing live streams for maybe like 3 weeks straight. And it wasn't until just like Friday, 2 days ago, that I started like questioning all of it.
Sure.
And Katie too. And it's just like, hold on, if we're just doing these live streams every day and sometimes like 2 or 3 in a day, what's the fucking point of that? Like,
Yeah. It's got to make you wonder.
But then again, that's just another one of those like moments where as an artist, I'm just questioning what I'm doing. But at the bottom line, like at the end of it, every single stream that we do, we get a handful of people message us and they say, thank you so much for doing that stream today. Thank you for giving us these free concerts. Thank you so much for getting us through these days. And even if just a few people said that after a live stream, that would be enough for me. So,
Absolutely. Well, you got 2 coming up.
rolling
You have
with
one. You have one Friday, May 29th, and then one Saturday, May 30th. Where do people go to check that out?
Actually, let me look in my calendar. I guess it just depends on what they are. And it's so funny. This is my life. I like never know what's going on. I have to utilize the calendar.
Absolutely. Well, that's my job in my life to put you on the spot, you know.
Oh yeah. So it's funny. I mentioned a brand reaches out and sends you coffee, like this brand High Brew that does cold brew. We're doing a stream for them on Wednesday.
Okay.
And then also on Wednesday we have we're doing a pre-recorded show for like a beer festival. And that's because the show isn't actually going to be a live stream. They're having like lots of different artists just in their own time send a 30-minute show, pre-recorded thing. So we're actually going Wednesday over to our bass player's house, and we're going to get in his backyard and socially distant rock out, I guess.
Yeah. Hey, man,
Bring
these are
that
the
tape
days,
measure.
you know?
6 feet on the dot.
Yeah. But I still didn't answer your question, so let me figure this out. The High Brew, the High Brew show on Wednesday is Instagram Live. And we honestly, we've been trying to, at the beginning of a week, make a flyer of everything we're doing. But sometimes just things come in like last minute or something. And
Yeah.
I'm just grateful, to have a team that's like reaching out and being reached out to for this kind of stuff.
Absolutely, man.
It's good to keep getting messages, and when those, because when those slow down, you're like, wait, what? Like, don't go away. We're still viable.
Yeah.
We need you.
Yeah, like today, so we have a number that fans can text, and that's been another way that we've really connected heavily through the quarantine. And so at the beginning we were getting a whole lot of texts, and I think we've sort of filtered through the people who cared for a second but don't anymore. And now we have this really awesome community of fans and friends that are texting us every day, and that's
Do you have that number handy?
that's just kind of been a new thing. I do.
Hit me with it.
Give me the digits.
818-452-2490.
Yeah, give
That'll
them a
get you
text.
through
Yeah.
to the
Shoot 'em a
Mowglis.
text.
And we all have it. We all have that text app. So any member of the band might respond, and sometimes I've noticed that someone will respond, but I'll have a little bit of a different thing to say. So I'll
Right. Yeah.
respond too.
Yeah. That happens to Josh and I too. We both check the boys' email and it's never a bad thing, but it's maybe we would have handled that a little differently if we would have talked about it. But whatever, man. Such is life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. So
love
yeah,
that.
oh, go ahead, Josh.
I found the thing for the Wow Hall, your 29th and 30th calendar. It's at Wow Hall on Twitter, WOWH, all capital, and then ALL. And there's a link in the thing there. It's like a Patreon for a nonprofit for a community center for performing arts in Eugene, Oregon. So check that out.
Yes. And that's really cool because we're one thing a lot of artists have been talking about is supporting those independent venues. And
they're hurting.
They're hurting, and it's gonna suck if we don't have them, because I don't know. I could go on about fees and all that bullshit, but we need independent venues.
Dude, I'm so scared that at the end of all this, we're just gonna be left with House of Blueses, just HOBs everywhere. Damn it.
Catch the Mowglis at Twin Peaks, Bethany, Oklahoma this Friday. Yeah, it'd be terrible. But yeah, so we got to wrap it up, Josh. But man, it was awesome talking to you. And, go to themowglis.net or check out at the Mowglis on Instagram to stay up to date. And I'm sure, you guys make flyers and live feeds and flim flams and all those other things that are just fantastic. Yeah. So yeah, man, thanks for coming on. It was great talking to you.
Yeah, man, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me. I know that I have a tendency to just like ramble.
No,
so.
dude, that's the perfect guest, man.
Oh, yeah.
It makes our job easy. We just sit back and listen and throw something in every now and then.
Yeah,
it
gives our listeners a break from our shitty ass voices, you know.
Yeah, there's only so much like new metal I can talk about, before people get tired of
We
me.
didn't talk about Limp Bizkit today.
We didn't. This is the first show in about 4 that I didn't try to like wedge in a Limp Bizkit reference or something.
No Limp Bizkit and no talks
we'll talk about that
mortality.
next time.
Yeah, and no talks about mortality for me, but we'll get to that next week, I'm very sure.
Oh, yeah. Or maybe we'll do it in the intro, which we're about to cut right now. So, Josh, thanks again, man, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Peace.
Bye.